Story 1. Try to find a new job because with my luck it will take more than a year. Story 2. Try to get hired as quickly as possible. Bank that year's salary toward retirement. Story 3. Take a nap first, then panic, then convince myself I'll figure it out while booking a cheap trip somewhere. Story 4. In 2009, I was laid off and received 6 months' salary. I took 3 months to regroup. Over the next 3 months, I added 2 certifications to my mental health therapy license and worked with a resume service to rework my curriculum vitae. I started job hunting after 6 months and had a new job after 10 months. Story 5. Fucking celebrate because most people getting laid off don't get shit. Story 6. Find a job. I could not relax until I was employed again, earning the same or more than I had before. Story 7. I would travel the world while applying for jobs and stop when I secure a job. Story 8. Cut back on expenses, go to food pantries, and apply for jobs as if it were my job. Story 9. Finish my not safe for work historical military simulation roguelike deck builder role-playing game. Story 10. Procrastinate for 11 months, then panic for 1 month to find a job. Story 11. Invest in stocks that pay dividends and continue to tutor people. Story 12. I tell you what I do, 2 women at the same time. I've always wanted to do that. Story 13. It depends on my financial situation. We are in good shape, so I would just take a sabbatical year. A month in Europe, a road trip across the United States, and time to focus on fitness, hobbies, and house projects. Story 14. This happened in 2015 when I was 55. I received 6 months' pay. I immediately applied to over 400 jobs in my field by the end of the year, and I did not get a single interview. I was very panicked and depressed. I used a large portion of my 401k retirement account to survive, working temporary and contract jobs until 2019 when I finally got a full-time job. I have been laid off 3 times since, and I am working full-time again. I cannot retire until at least age 70, but I enjoy my work, so I probably will not actually retire then. When I can receive Social Security and earn a salary without penalty at 66 years and 10 months, I will take it. Story 15. I needed to find a new job as soon as possible so I could save a few years' worth of salary. Story 16. I would spend 6 months resting and spending time with my young family, then start looking for another job. While having a job and saving for retirement is important, many people say, immediately look for work and save that money to retire earlier. There is no guarantee you will reach retirement age, and it is unlikely you will be able to do everything you can now when retired. I would make the most of the time I have while still young and relatively healthy. It is a gift, prime time. I know I am privileged to say that. I feel I could find another job that would pay my bills within 6 months. Time today is more precious to me than potential time in 30 years. Story 17. I would probably put most of it toward my debt, call a few colleagues in the industry, and start working again after a 2-week vacation. Story 18. Temporarily laid off or fired. If I am just laid off and will be called back to work in a year, I will wait it out. If I am actually fired, I will file for unemployment and start looking for a job. Story 19. I had something similar in 1995. I got laid off, and between accumulated vacation time, severance pay, and pay in lieu of notice, I was paid from April through November. I started looking for a job right away and applied to the Peace Corps, but I couldn't join because I was going through a divorce. I also applied to several graduate schools. I had a number of job interviews and was on several shortlists. One company paid for my trip from Los Angeles to the Bay Area to interview. There were 4 candidates for 2 positions, so I came close. I took a part-time job at my local library sorting and shelving books. It paid near minimum wage, but I loved the work and was already using the library's materials for job hunting. Eventually, I received 2 job offers at the same time and had to choose between them. I started working for one of the employers in December. Story 20. I will probably focus on my master's degree while job hunting. Story 21. My friend just got that. He found another job within 2 months and used the rest of the money to make repairs to his house and pay down his mortgage. Story 22. I would take one cool trip for a few weeks and then start looking for a new job. Story 23. Travel a bit, then live my usual life while looking for work. Story 24. It depends. What are your circumstances or goals? For me, it is about the extra funds. I would take 9 months off, make some memories, travel and party around the world, then return to the grind. Story 25. I need to find another job immediately, perhaps abroad. Unfortunately, as a federal contractor openly critical of the country's leader, I may be laid off without pay. Story 26. Go on an adventure vacation for 2 to 3 weeks. Then hunker down and apply intensively to new jobs. Story 27. This happened to me last year, though not for a full year. I worked on a side project with a friend and we are now close to seeing the results. I had to return to work after the year ended, but it was exciting to imagine what success would be like. Story 28. I would pay off my credit cards and then go somewhere where no one knows me. Story 29. Take 3 months off for a short vacation, clear my mind, and then begin an intensive job search. Story 30. I will immediately start looking for a job and hope I find one, so I can use 1 year's salary to do something for my future. Story 31. Try to find a new job. It now takes about a year to find one. But this actually happened to me. I got a job as soon as possible and then just banked the severance. Story 32. Look for a job. Once I have one, quickly build a portfolio while I receive 2 paychecks. Story 33. Look for a job and seriously research starting my own business. See which option wins out. Story 34. I will immediately look for another job. If I find one quickly, I will spend a little on a used motorcycle and put the rest into savings. If I do not find a job quickly, I will cut my spending so the money will last as long as possible. Story 35. It happened to my best friend. He works in a highly specialized field, and his wife earns good money, so he decided to be a stay-at-home husband and take care of the children. 3 months later, they begged him to come back because his department was falling apart, and they gave him a raise and a bonus. He still laughs about it to this day. Story 36. I have kept up with my nursing aid certification. It requires 40 hours per year to renew. The pay is low, but it covered my bills for 12 years. Almost every nursing home is always looking for aides, so if my current job dried up, I have a fallback option while I look for other work. Some days I miss taking care of people, and I am grateful for the experience and that I have a fallback plan. I am also glad my back does not hurt. Story 37. I have been in this situation. I continued working, not in my profession, but doing anything I could find. Making $10 an hour is better than making nothing. I am not the type of person who can sit at home, smoke weed, and watch television all day. Story 38. Get a weekend job. Take low-cost in-person classes. Find volunteer opportunities. Apply for jobs. Story 39. Take stock of my life and the new world. Maybe move someplace more congenial. Or just panic like a dumbass and pay all of my bills as far in advance as I could to avoid later stress. Story 40. That happened to me last year, although it may not apply. I was forced to retire at 55 with 1 year of severance pay. I received my pension lump sum and invested it. My 401k retirement account is about the same amount. My employer also provided health insurance for 10 years and gave enough additional money to cover the premiums for that entire period. My financial advisor said I do not have to work anymore unless I want to. I told him about my paid-off investment rental properties, and he said I will likely not run out of money unless I choose to travel, which I do not. I bought another house to rehabilitate, paying all cash with half of my severance payment. Maybe you could do that. Story 41. I went to Florida twice and slept in every day. It happened to me in 2009. Story 42. Probably just retire at that point or volunteer doing what I currently do a couple of days per week. Story 43. A year goes by incredibly fast. I ended up in this scenario last October, and the answer was exactly what I had been doing while working, plus some more intensive home improvement projects. I only lasted 6 months before I went back to work. Story 44. catch up on all my arcade projects, and maybe redecorate the space. I would rather have free time now than later when I am older and in more pain. Story 45. I was just laid off and I have 6 months to a year of employer-paid healthcare, though it is taxed. I am looking for a job. At 56, the pickings are slim and nobody is answering my applications yet. I am only about a month in. Even a couple of positions that seemed perfect for me, in my humble opinion, have not responded. Bottom line, do not mess around unless you can truly afford to. Story 46. I really need health insurance right now. I'd be in serious trouble. Story 47. Kick my friend's ass for firing me, and then probably go to the Grand Canyon. Story 48. Cut expenses to the bone, take unemployment, and look for a new position. The additional money will give me more time to find a new job. I have been in a similar situation multiple times. This is the only option that would work for me. Story 49. Start an online store in the same industry in which I currently work. Story 50. Go back to college. It would be a lot easier if I did not have to work my shitty job at the same time. Story 51. If it is temporary and you are returning to your job after the layoff, take a nap, pick up a hobby, find something constructive to do. Consider starting a small side hustle to reduce the strain on your savings. If you are not returning, update your resume and start sending applications as soon as possible. The job market is difficult, and it is better to have a reliable income. Put whatever remains of 1 year's salary into a tax-free savings account. Use it to boost your retirement savings, or put it toward your house. Choose whatever makes the most sense for your situation. Story 52. I need to find a new job as soon as possible. I do not earn enough to just hang out all day. Story 53. When I was laid off some time ago, it felt relaxing. I did not have to wake up early or rush to get dressed. I stayed in, made myself breakfast, went for a walk in the nearby park, and listened to audiobooks or music. Later, I would go out to shop or run errands, then come back, relax, and apply for jobs. It is surreal how different your time becomes and how valuable it is when it is free. If I were laid off now with 1 year of salary, I would probably hit the gym again and try to stay consistent. I would do errands around the house, maybe watch do-it-yourself videos on YouTube. I would go hiking more and explore more of the city and my surroundings. I would probably volunteer at a couple of places and even take some online classes. 40 or more hours a week is a lot of time to spend on other things. Story 54. Accept the job offer I am agonizing about and use the salary to pay off my debts. Story 55. Start looking for a new job immediately. If I get lucky, I may be able to hang on to some of that money. If not, it will not last forever. Either way, I still need health insurance. Story 56. I will spend 20 hours a week getting back in shape and losing 100 pounds. I will spend 20 hours a week improving my mind by working toward a combined bachelor's and master's degree, or at least beginning those programs. Story 57. This happened to me out of nowhere. I started my own business, which is still operating 3 years later. Story 58. I hated my job at a company where I worked and was considering quitting when the company was purchased and the new owners let my whole office go. Between the severance package and the contract pay they gave me to train my replacements, I was paid a little more than a year's salary for having been fired from a job I was probably weeks away from quitting. I used that money to start an escape room business. I designed and built all my own puzzles and wrote a custom animated hint system for the 3 rooms. A year in, I had made back twice my initial investment, but I decided I hated dealing with customers, so I sold the business to someone else for a year's profit. I used the experience building my own electronic puzzles and writing the hint system to land a job at another company paying 50% more than I had been earning only a year earlier. Moral of the story: sometimes you get incredibly lucky. Story 59. Bank it or invest it, and find a new job immediately. Not least for financial reasons, but also because I would go insane without a job to occupy me during the week. I am the kind of person who likes to stay busy, and I sometimes run out of things to do even after a long weekend. Being without work would terrify me in that regard. Story 60. Pay off as much of my debt as possible, mainly my car. Then find another job. Story 61. I was tasked with winding down a startup and shut it down. I received a 1-year severance package, took a month off, and began looking for a new job. I banked 2 salaries to cover the year. Story 62. I procrastinate until the last minute, then begrudgingly return to the same career field. Story 63. I would buy a camper van so I have a place to stay without worrying about rent. I would put the rest away to live comfortably and maintain it while looking for another job. Story 64. I will probably take a trip for the first month or so. Realistically, I will be working my whole life, but if I get a break, I will take it for a bit. Then I will start looking for a new job, which may take a couple of months. I now have about 8 months of extra salary to invest. Story 65. Okay, so I actually know this plan. I would invest it in a stock called XDTE and buy it on margin. Pays a handsome weekly dividend. I could live off the dividends. I would then acquire any factory or retail property I could find and slowly build my way out of margin. I would pray a lot. Story 66. I am experiencing something similar to this right now, and I have been in Italy for a month. Story 67. I received 31 weeks' salary. I will probably retire. Story 68. It is going to be a shit show, but with a safety net. Every day, wake up, apply for a job, work out and get in shape, go to sleep, repeat. Story 69. Travel the world and ski for 1 full season. You will never get that value back in retirement. Story 70. I thought I would take 4 to 6 months off and travel, but after 3 months I received an unsolicited job offer and accepted it. The trip was enjoyable. Story 71. I have a very sought-after profession. I could get a new job in 1 to 5 days if I wanted to. Story 72. Find a job. Any job. It does not matter what field it is in. Some income is better than no income. After that, continue to look for a job in my field that pays the same or better than what I was getting paid before. Story 73. This would give me the opportunity to determine whether I can make a living from stock trading. Story 74. I would find a new job immediately, then put the entire salary toward a high-yield dividend and growth investment, probably a Vanguard fund. Story 75. This actually happened to me. I told myself I would get back into writing, work on my tabletop role-playing games, start working out, and lose weight. I planned to focus on myself and build good habits. What I actually did was watch a lot of YouTube, play a lot of video games, masturbate frequently, neglect my health except for going on night walks several times a week, and overall fall into depression and self-isolation. It taught me that time was never the issue. If I had truly wanted to do those things and had the discipline, I would have made time whether I was working or not. The combination of a lack of discipline and a lack of guiding purpose turned what many would see as an opportunity to finally achieve their dreams into effectively a year-long weekend of doing nothing. Take it from me, someone who had the time you keep telling yourself you need to change your life. Time did nothing for me. Discipline and a true desire to change did. I didn't lose weight, find the love of my life, take better care of myself, or re-engage with my hobbies and find new ones when I had a whole year of free time to do just that. I did those things while I was working 40 to 50 hours a week, and the excuse you keep telling yourself, if I just had more free time I could change, is just that, an excuse. You have time. You always have had time. Time is something we literally have more of than almost anything in our lives. If you want something enough, you will find the time for it. If you can't or won't, reassess your priorities and decide what deserves the time you have, or realize that what you really want is the results of change and not actual change. Story 76. Given my age, maybe give myself time to enjoy life, and if I don't find something before the end of the year, plan my death. There should be enough left to cover the cremation, estate taxes, and perhaps leave some for my friends for their son's college fund. Story 77. I will spend time with my family, help my wife with housework, exercise, pick up a hobby, and read my books. Story 78. This happened to me last year, but it was 4 months, not 12, because I had pay in lieu of notice. If I needed time to get my head around things, I would take it and then start job hunting. If I was happy to be leaving, I would probably take a month to go on holiday and relax, then begin job hunting. Either way, I suggest starting job hunting soon after, because your curriculum vitae will look better and it may take a while to find the right position. Best case, you have about 10 months of pay. Put it into savings for a rainy day, pay down the mortgage, get on the property ladder sooner, or replace your vehicle. Story 79. I should flee my country, learn a new language, and try to blend in with skilled workers in the Netherlands. I am American, but I no longer want to be. Story 80. Praise the Lord. I can focus on nursing school and not have to work. Story 81. That is about 32,000 euros. I do not know. I would look for a new job and play games like I did before to save more money. Story 82. Buy a cheap house in southern Italy, reduce my spending to subsistence level, and look for new remote work while building online revenue streams. Story 83. Take 10 months off, then frantically search for a job in the last 2 months. Story 84. Pay off debt first, then take a month to breathe before figuring out my next move. Story 85. Apply for new jobs immediately. Put the money in my individual savings account and withdraw enough each month to cover the bills. Hopefully, I will land a new job soon afterward. Take a budget trip to one of the destinations on my list. Once I am employed again, keep some of the money as an emergency fund and make extra payments on the mortgage with the remainder. Story 86. Do what I am doing now. Take a sabbatical. Travel the world. Work on a personal project. I am currently in Bangkok training Muay Thai. Story 87. Look for a new job. It would be nice to have 1 year's salary in the bank while employed. Story 88. Start looking for a new job. Once I find one, see if I can negotiate a start date a few weeks later, so I can take a short vacation after the job search is complete. Story 89. I am in that exact situation. I am taking a break for a few months and deciding what I want to do, that is, return to a similar role or pursue a career change. Story 90. Sue to get even more money. I am a teacher with more than 5 years at the same school, which in my country means you cannot be fired unless you engage in sexual misconduct with students or use drugs in class. Story 91. I still have no money because being laid off presupposes that I was able to get a job in the first place. Story 92. Take a month off. Have a short holiday, then look for a new job and set the remaining money aside for a deposit. Story 93. I was laid off with 2 years' salary and bonus. I took a month off and went on 2 trips. I started a new job 1 month later. Retirement just got a lot closer. Story 94. This happened to me twice in the last 5 years. I found a job about a month later and did not have to live off the lump sum payment. Story 95. I accepted a job opportunity that a friend had been pestering me about for a year. Because so few people are willing to work or can pass a drug test, I can move next door and continue earning a 6-figure salary. Story 96. First, I would spend a month doing absolutely nothing. I would sleep in, read books, and go for walks. I would need a serious detox from burnout before I could think straight. Once I felt human again, I would take a large portion of the money and go backpacking somewhere cheap and completely different, such as Southeast Asia. No resorts, no plans, just a one-way ticket. The goal would be to get uncomfortable and remember who I am without a job title attached. When I returned, I would spend the remaining months and money learning a real tangible skill I have always been curious about, such as carpentry or coding. Something that feels more concrete than sending emails all day. I would use the year to change the direction of my life rather than merely take a break. Story 97. Start looking for other jobs. Start a YouTube channel about fishing. I am obsessed with it and already spend a lot of time doing it and preparing for different scenarios. Apply this new large asset, free time, to my other major assets and liabilities, my house and cars, to accelerate growth in net worth. Use the time to invest heavily in experiences with my family and friends, finding creative ways to travel and share adventures. I have never had time like this in my life, so I would take full advantage. Story 98. Retire. That would pretty much top off the retirement kitty. Story 99. That happened to me, although it was not quite a year's salary. I went to Hawaii for 3 months and just relaxed by the ocean. Story 100. Use it to start something up worry-free. If it has not gotten off the ground after reaching 75% completion, start looking for a new job. Keep records of what you did. It is best if you created a limited liability company or otherwise put it on the record rather than just wasting time. Story 101. Find another job and get paid twice. If I take a whole year off, it would be much harder both to find another decent job and to find the motivation to do so. Story 102. This happened to me in 2009. I worked there for 26 years and severance was 2 weeks per year, totaling 52 weeks, 1 year. I was very burned out and needed a break. So I spent 6 months traveling, painting my house, redoing the garage, and finding every kind of distraction I could. Then I started looking for work and a great contract job came my way. Eventually I had to find a new corporate job to get health insurance. Story 103. Sell nearly everything and make the move I was planning. Story 104. Are you a boomer? Many people take over a year to find a job. Story 105. I will look for a new job because I will be bored and will have twice the income once I start working again. Story 106. Darn. My annual salary would not be enough to pay for my medications without insurance. Story 107. Finish my house projects and travel as much as I can afford. Story 108. First, take care of the wife and children. Second, play golf and take naps. Story 109. Find a job as soon as possible and deposit your money into an investment account. Story 110. If you live in an apartment, pay a year's worth of rent in advance. If you have a little money for travel, do so. Buy a burial plot and casket so your family does not have to. Pay off debt. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.